Good evening, everybody. Shalom. Thank you all for coming. My wife and I would like to thank you for coming, participating. This is the first of 3 lectures. We invite you to come back for more. We want to thank the host, that's the Nitzanim Shul, for allowing us to use their location. And we started this company, this organization called YIBONEH'S, which is about trying to encourage people and empower people to do more chesed with the situation that we've been in for 2,000 years. But the situation that we've been in recently, we can all use a boost of happiness, of course, and we believe doing chesed is part of the way to get there. So we decided to do a workshop specifically, with the theme of the secret of happiness. And our first speaker tonight is Rav Gavriel Friedman, and without any further ado, here he is.
Okay. Good evening, all. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, once again, for those who don't know, I think some of you probably do by now. If anyone is interested, it's your call. No judgments, but the poll, you're welcome to move at any time. Okay, here we go. So, introduction. My name is Gavriel Friedman, originally from a place called Woodmere, New York. Been living here in New Jersey for the past 15 years. Married, got a bunch of kids. Like long walks on the beach and guitar. Any questions? Okay then, let's get started. So, we're going to do a class today, which is an oldie but a goodie. For some of you who might be new, we're going to start off with the following. There was an episode of The Simpsons. Is anybody familiar with such pasnish? No? Okay, so there was an episode of The Simpsons that, if you don't know what that is, I pity you. And basically what happens is like this. Homer Simpson is walking and he is in heaven. Homer Simpson is in heaven with God. And he's walking along and he says to him, "So God, you got to tell me, what's the purpose? What are we doing here? Why do we exist?" So he's like, "Now, Homer, I can't tell you that. Come on, I can't tell you." He's like, "Come on, please tell me." He's like, "Listen, you'll find out when you die." He's like, "Come on, I can't wait that long." He's like, "It's only 6 months. Relax. What you can't wait for?" He's like, "No, God, please, you gotta tell me. Like, what is the purpose?" He says, "Homer, okay, I'll tell you. The purpose of life is." Now, before I tell you the end, I just want to share something with you. Imagine you're walking in an airport, and when you're walking by an airport, even if you're not big into television or these type of things, but as you're walking by, they have the TVs all over the place with the news on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I know this is strange. When I ask a question, I'm actually looking for an answer. Right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay, good. Now, so you have these TVs all over, and when you walk by, you hear someone going, "The purpose of life is." Would you turn around? Yeah? Yeah, now even the atheist, I think, would turn around. Let's see what they have to say, right? So and especially if you turn around and you see it's Homer Simpson, right? So what happens, goes in and says, "The purpose of life is," and you turn around, and then the show ends and it cuts to the credits. Purpose of life is, and then it cuts to the credits. Why did they do that?
They don't know.
Okay, one suggestion is they don't know. Why else?
So you have to watch the next episode.
Good, right, to make sure you can see the next episode, right? If they tell you, then you're finished, yeah? Why else?
Maybe they wouldn't want to share it.
Why not?
It's a very difficult question. There are many answers to this question.
Okay, many answers. Okay, so I think the most real answer is probably they don't know. In other words, even if they do know, if they say one answer, you know what's going to happen? They're going to lose at least half their viewers the next day, right? Because everyone's not going to want to be there. The Simpsons, if anyone knows, they're all about that everyone should be part of it. For example, does anyone know where they're from? Where are the Simpsons from?
Springfield.
Springfield what?
No state.
Exactly, because every single state in the United States has a Springfield. I said that once in Cleveland. And the guy,
Temple-based Springfield.
yeah, so there was the rabbi in Cleveland. When I said this to him, he was so heartbroken because he's from Springfield, New Jersey, and he thought that's what it was. He's like, "What? My childhood?" But anyway, the idea is that it's everywhere because we should all feel part of this. So they're not going to tell you. They don't want to bust up, and probably they don't know. But Judaism comes along, and we claim that we know. We claim a lot of things. Yeah, but we claim that we know what is the purpose of our existence. Why are we here? Does anyone want to suggest an answer of why we exist? What is the purpose of our existence? Now, you could say there's many answers, but I suggest there's really only one.
Personal tikkun.
Oh, well, that was an intense one. Okay, a personal tikkun. That's correct. That is true. Give me more.
God's wish. Well, tikkun olam, tikkun olam, that's it.
Aleinu l'shabeach. Yeah?
Tikkun olam, Hashem, right.
Or it could be to be happy because of this class about being happy.
There you go. Very good. But no, that's not it either. But the idea, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm not kidding. Let's see. The ultimate purpose is as follows. Yeah?
It's like basking God's goodness.
Oh, nice. To bask in the goodness of the Lord. I like that. What's your name? Alec, that was a good one. Right, there's what to bask in his aura, right? Just to be showered upon with his magnificence, yeah? Also true. And I'm going to put it into another word, though. If you want to take a look and see the purpose of anything in life, how do you figure out what something's purpose is? Like, for example, let's say you found a pencil, okay? And you don't know what a pencil is. You have no idea what it is. If you find a marker, right? You don't know what a marker is. And you want to know what it is. How do you figure out what it is? There's no one to ask and you don't have Google. Yeah? How do you figure out what it is?
Try stuff.
Try stuff. Try it out. So you go out and you try it as, you got something stuck in your tooth. So you try to take it out. Too big. Not good for a toothpick. Yeah? You try to put it in a door to make sure the door isn't closed. Cracks in half. Not good enough for like a door stopper. You get frustrated. You take it like, and you go like that. And it makes a mark on the wall. And you go, oh, look at that. We'll call it a marker. Right? And it makes a mark. Now, let me ask you a question. If you want to know the purpose of anything, how do you figure it out? You try it. And whatever it does best becomes its purpose. Now, this may be the last time you're going to have me speak here, Rabbi. I apologize for this example. I want to use an example. We might have to edit this one. I want to use an example, and please do not give me the obvious answer. And if you are thinking of it, do not say it. There's a medication that was developed. The medication is called Viagra. Does anyone know why Viagra was developed? What was the reason it was developed?
For heart trouble.
Good. It was developed for heart problems. The reason was for blood pressure in particular. However, they found an interesting side. We're not getting into it. They found an interesting side effect, and that became its main purpose. Did we get that? Even if you invent something for one thing, even if something does something great, if you find a better purpose, that becomes its purpose. Did we get that? Now let's talk about human beings. What do we do best? You want to figure out what our purpose is. Let's take a look and see, what do we do? What do we do? Just figure it out. Just take a look and see, what do we do? Every single person in the world is looking for this. What do we do best? Yeah? I was going to say that was one answer, but I like it. Good. I have another one. Yeah.
Mimic other people's actions.
Right. That's a self-esteem talk. We're going to talk about that another time.
Think.
Right?
Think.
What?
Think.
Everyone thinks.
Enjoy stuff.
Interesting.
Observe.
Enjoy stuff. We're getting closer. If I may create. If I may take a couple decades back to sing you a song. Every step you take from every move you make, anything you've ever done in your life, you have done for what? You have done for yourself, true, but it's also you're doing it for
Purpose.
pleasure. Pleasure. Anything you've ever done in your life, you are doing in order to get pleasure. True or false? Speak up if you disagree. Let's do it.
Is pleasure the same as trying to put on a show for somebody else that you want to put them on for? Because that gives you pleasure. If that
Anything, right? Anything we're doing is we're going to think we're going to get more out of this than out of that.
Well, Torah mitzvot is exactly over pleasure.
Say again, please.
Torah mitzvot. Fasting Tisha B'Av is a pleasure? I don't think so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And why are you doing it?
Because God ordered us.
Right, so who cares? Don't do it. Great. So in other words, it's either to take you out of pain or to bring you towards pleasure, right? And the idea is what we're hoping by taking you out of this pain, it's going to bring you towards a pleasure. There's a consequence. I don't want the consequence. Person says, well, I don't want to go to school. The answer is yes, you do, because if you don't, you're going to get a whooping. And you'd rather not get that whooping, in which case you're doing it to get more pleasure. Everything was our cost-benefit analysis is all best. What are we going to get the most out of? What do we get the most out of?
Simcha tamid liot b'mitzvah tamid.
Okay, that this
That's
is...
a pleasure. That when you do the mitzvah, you get a pleasure.
You're getting Rabbi Nachman on me already. Very nice. Yeah? Mitzvah Gedol Liot B'Simcha Tamid. For those who are not familiar, happens not to be a chazal. But yes, Rabbi Nachman does say it. Yeah? What? Beautiful. Ultimately, anything you, my friend, have ever done is because it brings you pleasure. And if it didn't bring you pleasure, or you didn't think it brought you pleasure anymore, you'd stop doing it, you'd try to find something else. Now, some people always say, well, what about those people who go for pain? What about people who want pain? What's the answer? That's their pleasure, right? You get it? Everything we're doing is for our pleasure. Now here comes the, yeah.
We have some obligations that we just do because we're obligated to do them.
Now I ask again, so what if you're obligated? Don't do it.
What about a red light?
You have to do them sometimes.
Are you able not to? Do you have the ability not to? Can you break the law?
I'm not talking about, looking after an elderly relative.
Leave them. Let them die.
Right, that is an option, but that.
Why don't you? Don't answer this if it's going to come out weird, right? But
No, but is the pleasure you're talking about? Is it your pleasure or their pleasure?
yours.
No, then you're doing it. You're doing it because you want to help them, but it's not pleasurable.
Why do you want to help them? Why? Let them die. Painfully.
No, you want to help them
Why do you want to help them?
Conscious.
because you want them to live.
Why do you want them to live?
The want gives you pleasure.
Because they'll have, I don't know.
Good. So,
I'm not thinking of a specific example, but they have a better life if they're living.
no, you have to understand, no matter what you're going to say, I'm going to ask you the same question every time. We're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole until hopefully we hit the bottom.
I mean, also, when I get up at 6 a.m. to go to Shachrit in the morning,
Why'd you do
that
that?
does not give me pleasure at all. I would rather stay in bed.
Hashem Yazor, I have to give another class on that. Okay, so I'm asking you a question, so don't get up. Don't get up.
No, I want to do it.
Why?
But it's not giving me pleasure.
I don't understand. If it's not getting you pleasure, why haven't you stopped? Because when you stop,
It's
you're
giving me other things.
What's it
I get
giving
other
you?
things from it.
What's he giving you?
Um,
Think about it, get back to me. I don't know what, but it is something.
Some kind of peace, some kind of...
And what is that, my friend? What is
It's not-
that?
It's not pleasure.
What is it?
I just told you it's other things.
So what is that? It's very articulate. Thank you for pointing that
I
out.
just said some kind of peace, some kind of...
Yeshiva das, right?
you know,
Goes like, listen again. Let me put it in this way. 100% that it could be a person's not maximizing the pleasure that they're getting. Even if someone is going for pleasure, sometimes they're not getting the greatest pleasure. Even if someone would say, I am going for pleasure, they might also not be getting the pleasure that they're supposed to be getting from it. And that's what I'm going to get to in a minute. And here what I'm pointing out to you is that ultimately the reason why you're getting up is because you feel this is the right thing to do. You feel like you're going to gain from this either maybe in the next world, perhaps, or you're not going to feel guilty throughout your day. Is this possible, any of these answers? In which case, you want to not feel all those things. Therefore, you feel better by doing this than by not doing it. You are looking for a better day than you were without this. Therefore, the better day for you would be going 6 a.m. And if you don't go 6 a.m., you go 7. But you can't because of work. Right? So now what? Then you end up not going. Then you feel guilty. You don't feel as good. In which case, ultimately, everything we're doing is trying to get the most out of life. We're trying to get the most pleasure. You want to call it happiness? We could do that also. Trying to get content? These are all ideas which people get caught up in semantics, perhaps. We're going to define terms in a minute. But everything that we are doing in our life, we are doing because we want to get something good out of it. We want to get something positive out of it. We want to enjoy. You want to call it Yeshiva Das? You can call that also. But Yeshiva Das is also coming at the purpose of to get pleasure out of this. So therefore, here comes the real question. If we all know that our life, at least as a whole, we're trying to get pleasure, we're trying to get the most out of life, then why is it that there's so many depressed people? Why are there so many? Not in this room. It's never in the room that I'm teaching, right? It was you guys last night. But the question is, why is it there's so many depressed people in the world? There was a book written. There was a book written in the 90s, many books, by the way, written. But there's one in particular, written in the late 80s. It was a lovely book. It's called The Final Exit. 35 Ways of How to Commit Suicide in the Comfort of Your Own Home. It sold 800,000 copies. After that, it was just inherited. But the idea is, you understand, New York Times bestseller list. Who in the world would buy? What's going on? 800,000 people, and this was in the 80s. You understand? This is talking about before I had all the publicity of the internet, whatever it was, so much whatever. Why are there so many people running for that? Why are there so many we all want pleasure, and not only do we want pleasure, everyone's going for pleasure, and not only that, I think 2015, and every year I could say this because it's only going crazier, right? 2015, we can get the most pleasure out of life. So what's going on over here? Why is it that a person's not getting the most? So I want to share with you an amazing idea. This class which I'm teaching you right now is developed from a rabbi by the name of Noach Weinberg of blessed memory, started Esha Torah, and passed away about 5 years ago. And he said an amazing thing. He says, you know why perhaps we're not getting the most pleasure out of life, even though people want it? It's because we're confusing two things. We're confusing pleasure and comfort. Anyone get what I just said? Yeah. Pleasure and comfort. When in life we're going ahead and we're saying we really want to get the most out of life, so therefore we're going to buy the greatest thing out there. We're going to get the newest phones. We're going to get the best whatever you have, bed, the best anything like the nicest car, and all these things. What do they do for us? We're hoping it's going to bring us pleasure, but ultimately, what is it actually bringing us? Comfort. What does comfort do to you? Now, what I'm going to share with you right now could be argued. I don't want to get stuck in this particular point. However, this is the way that Noach would word it. What's the opposite of pain?
Pleasure. Joy.
No pain.
No pain.
The opposite of pain is no pain. If you take away pain, you don't all of a sudden have pleasure. You just don't have pain anymore. Now you're at status quo. So why is it you have so many times that people, God forbid, I don't want to get into this again. I was unfortunately on the phone last night with someone about this for a long time, but in reference to addictions, when a person gets involved in, let's say, drugs, right? And I don't mean, okay, let's say some things which maybe even they would perhaps agree that they shouldn't be involved with. Why do people do that? Could be a lot of reasons. One particular one, which is not uncommon, is people want to get out of pain that they're feeling in their life. So they go out and they do it, and it takes them out of the pain. But then they just continue feeling some sort of pain. Why? Why do they feel pain? I thought that they got out of it. The answer is because all it does is take them out of their pain. It doesn't bring them to pleasure. Now you're just status quo. So the question is, how do we get to the actual idea of pleasure? So he said the following. This is really, it's phenomenal. You can plug it into your life in every area, and that's what we're going to try to do right now. The class is entitled The 5 Levels of Pleasure. And we're going to take a look and see how Judaism tries to do this. So there's a book called the Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch was a book written in the 13th century, written by whom? Okay, and everyone else is correct. It was written anonymously. And basically, yeah, we're not exactly sure if that's true, but take a look. But in any event, the idea is that the Sefer HaChinuch, the book of education, wonderful book, goes through many ideas, all the mitzvahs in the Torah, and it tells you 5 things. What is the mitzvah? What is the source of the mitzvah? Why do we do the mitzvah? To whom does it apply, and when? Right? Very interesting, right? I wouldn't... any mitzvah you have a problem with, you're interested in learning about, take a look and it'll give you a little breakdown. Very interesting. In one of the mitzvot, it brings down the following idea. It's literally one line. And this one line, the Sefer HaChinuch says that there are 5 levels of pleasure. Now, it could be that you'll look it up and you might see the following, that it's a Tohu Sofrim and really is only 4. And then I leave to your own decision of how you take a look into that. I'm going to tell you all 5 and then you'll decide whether or not you want them or go with 4. And he says the following idea, 5 levels of pleasure. We're going to go them one by one and we're going to take a look and see how they apply to our lives. Let's start with number 5. We're going to work it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 being the lowest level, 1 being the greatest level, the highest level. Give me a category. Let's start with number 5. Give me a category of pleasure. Not an example, a category. Physical. Good. Physical, right? Straight up, physical pleasure. This is a category, and this is a category we're all involved with. Everybody is trying to get physical pleasure in life, right? And like we said, even those who are getting the pain, that's considered their pleasure. Okay, so now here there are 3 things, though, in every category you have to watch out for. 3 things. What are the 3 things? Number 1, when we're talking about the idea in any level, is you need to be what we call a connoisseur. You need to be an expert. So, for example, let's say, is anyone here into photography? Okay, good. You? All right. The idea is, if anyone's into photography, then you will be familiar with what I'm about to share with you. I am not familiar with what I'm going to share with you. I am just saying things that I have heard. My wife is into photography. She's got all this fancy equipment. It's got like thingamajigs. That is a technical term, I believe. That's right, for cameras. And basically, so now, it used to be when I would look at a picture, I could look at a picture and enjoy it. You look at a picture, it's nice. But now, even with the minimal information that I have, when I look at a picture, I'm like, who set up this white balance? I'm saying, like, I don't understand. Well, where's the f-stop? Is that 2.4? That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? The aperture's totally off, right? I don't even know what I just said. But the idea is, when you look at it, like, it used to be very nice. Now it's like, no, because the more knowledge you have in a certain area, the more picky you become. Now, though it's true, the more picky you become, but the more pleasure and the more enjoyment you can actually get out of something. So number one is you got to be an expert. In every level we're going to talk about, you got to know, what are we talking about here? What is it? What does it mean? What does it mean, physical pleasure? Are you an expert in what physical pleasure actually is? Number two, whoa, is that you have to watch out for what are you focusing on. Has anyone here ever done CPR before? On a person? Little Annie? Unfortunately, she never made it. I don't think anybody told her she's missing half her body. But in any event, the idea is, I take it that I didn't see anyone raising their hand that they did. No one's done it in a person before? Okay. For those who have trained, those who have trained for CPR, so you might be familiar, at least protocol here in Israel, I'm an EMT, and in Israel, protocol is that you have to, every 2 minutes shift, assuming that someone else working with you, that you shift every 2 minutes, because it's quite physically draining to do CPR. How long can a person do it for? So when we were trained, what would we do? When we practice, when the instructor's not looking, it's like N1, N2, N3. When he would look, it's like okay, N4, N5, N6. And it's red, it's exerting, right? So how long can you do it for? 5 minutes straight, maybe 10 minutes. How long can you do it for until your whole teeth becomes too difficult? I remember the first time I did CPR. First time I did CPR, I got called. I was actually in the car with my family, and I didn't even have a beeper at the time. Just my friend calls me up, and he says to me, "Where are you?" So I told him the street I was on. He goes, "Great. Number," and he gives me the number of this. I was on the street, and he gives me the number. I'm like, "What am I doing there?" He goes, "CPR." I'm like, "CPR?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Is he alive?" He goes, "Then you wouldn't be doing CPR." Right? I was like, "Okay, here we go." Right? So I go there and I tell my wife, "I'll be out in 5 minutes." It's like, because the little Annie only took a couple minutes, you know what I'm saying? So I figured that's what's going to be. Like, how long can it take already? Right? So I get in there. And when I get in there, there was another Hatzalah guy there. There was a Hatzalah guy, and he was doing something, and I come and he's like, "Oh, great. Okay, come take over." I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready." I'm like, "What do I do?" He's like, "What do you mean? CPR?" I was like, "Of course." Right? So I get down, and the guy's like, "I'll be right back," and he leaves. He didn't come back. I don't know where he went. Right? Could be he died. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Point is, the guy doesn't show back. So I start CPR. I start doing it. I start right. I go, and I feel right away. Ouch. But he didn't say anything, so I kept going. That's what happens. I go ahead. I broke the guy's ribs. Right? Now, for those who are familiar with CPR, will know if you do not break his ribs or her ribs, then it means you're probably not doing a good job. Right? In other words, you need it to be a lot of pressure in order to make sure the blood is flowing throughout the entire body. Right? So I go out and do CPR. 5 minutes. I'm like, "Anybody out there?" Right, 10 minutes. "Hello, is it me you're looking for?" "Yes, anyone." Right, and they're gonna go right. I get anybody out there. Just not if you can hear me. Nothing. I'm trying Floyd. I'm trying everyone. No one's coming. Right. So what happens? 20 minutes. I'm going at it. 20 minutes, and now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a break. I'll be right back. I go outside. My wife is in the car with the kids. I say, "You go home. I don't know how long this is gonna take." I go back in. Another 10 minutes. So finally, paramedics arrive. I'm like, "Can we switch?" Right? And the guy's like, "We need to set up the medication." Right? I was like, "Take your time." Right? And I go and I'm doing the thing. And by now, I'm like, this is just out of control. And I'm like, staying alive. And I'm trying to keep this going here. And basically, okay, finally what happens after about 40 to 45 minutes of doing this, somebody takes over. Now, at the end, I don't know what happened afterwards. We got a pulse back, which is actually phenomenal. We got a pulse back, yeah. Now, what happened to him afterwards? I don't know. He probably died in the hospital. But the idea is, I'm pessimistic, but if you know in terms of medicine, unfortunately. But the idea is what? We got there pretty early. It could be. Who knows? We got his pulse back. It was my first batting 1 for 1. It was great, yeah. And basically, the question is, though, how did I do it for 45 minutes? How was I able to do such a thing? I would never be able to do that, right? Don't tell me adrenaline. How was I able to do it for so long?
No other choice.
It's just I don't have a choice, right? I don't have a choice. I have to save this guy's life. You understand? I have to, or revive him. Whatever. I don't know. I got to do something here, right? And the idea is that very simply, When in practicing, I can't do it, but when we go ahead and I do it in real life, I'm able to do it with no problem. How come? Question is, what's your focus? Are you focusing on the effort that it takes in order to be able to do something? Or are you focusing on the result that will come from your efforts? Does everybody get that? If you focus on the effort, i.e. in practice, so it's like, oh, I can't do this. When you focus on results, you can... I'm not sure you said, but yes. Yes, Ken, right? When you focus on results, then you're able to do unbelievable things. Okay, that's number two. Number three, number one again, you got to be an expert. Number two, focus on results. Number three is you got to watch out for the counterfeit. What that means, in every level of pleasure we're going to deal with, in every level, there's the real deal, and then there's a counterfeit. The counterfeit looks like it, smells like it, tastes like it, but it ain't it. All right? And I'll give an example. So let's now break them down. Level 5 is what we call physical pleasure. And unfortunately, most of us are living, I don't know about, again, not us, outside. Most people are living only in number 5, and they're not even getting it. They're getting something, but they're not even getting it. How come? So let's look at those 3 again. You got to be an expert. What is physical pleasure? So first of all, what's physical pleasure? Give me a definition. Define for me physical pleasure.
Instant gratification.
Can even be long-term gratification. But give me physical pleasure.
What your body likes.
Good. Something which is physical, right? In other words, it's involved in one of the 5 senses, right? Something we experience with one of the 5 senses is what we call physical pleasure. Okay? Now, here's the problem. Like we said, this is the lowest class. How come people are not necessarily getting it? Because I'm only got to be an expert. Let me give you an example of what an expert is in physical pleasure. So we talked about in terms of looking at a picture, right? How about in terms of eating food? Has anyone here ever eaten Ben & Jerry's? Has anyone ever not eaten Ben & Jerry's? Please get out. Okay. The idea is what? Is that Ben & Jerry's. People love Ben & Jerry's. Besides you, everyone loves Ben & Jerry's. They go out and eat Ben & Jerry's. Has anyone here ever eaten a Ben & Jerry's? Gotten Ben & Jerry's like one of these, like pints, right? And eaten the whole thing within a couple of minutes. Anyone? Right? Okay. I want to tell something which I probably shouldn't do in video again, so we're going to have to edit this one also. But my wife, this is messed up what I'm going to say. But I'm going to say it anyway. So, I shouldn't say it? She's not here. And so my wife, when we used to, and this is, again, you have to understand the whole story. No one leave in the middle of the story. There's a certain time in a Jewish relationship that is called nida, right? Nida is for those unfamiliar, is a period of time when the husband and wife are not allowed to be together with each other, and not even supposed to even have physical touch at all. And really, there's something called archakos, where you're not even supposed to eat from the same plate. You're not even supposed to eat from the same food at the same time. It could be a serving plate where you're taking from, but not to eat from the same plate. My wife's favorite time was that. Not because of what you're thinking, but because of the fact that when we used to get a thing of Ben & Jerry's, my wife likes to enjoy the food. So she would eat it, take a little bit, and it would take her like a week or 2 to finish the thing, yeah? I would take a little or half, and she would lick once, and I would take the rest, and she would be left with nothing. So when it was a time when I can't eat her food, she's like, I can't touch this. She would have to eat it herself. But now we started just getting our own pints, so we're good, right? And I finished mine and then have hers. But the idea is that when you go and you eat that, you feel sick after. I don't understand. Isn't it physical pleasure? Isn't Ben & Jerry's physical pleasure? The answer is number 1, become an expert in tasting and paying attention. Number 1 is the idea of understanding how to use your senses to be able to really maximize anything you're eating. Number 2 is the focus. Are you focusing on the fact that it's frozen and it's hard to get out? Or are you focusing on, oh, this is going to be good? And number 3 is the counterfeit, and that's all of physical pleasure. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it in order as a means to an end to get somewhere higher than you are? Or are you using it as what we call self-indulgence? And if you ask me, I think America has pretty much, I don't know if whoever's from America will know. If you're not, then you probably will also know that we are quite large. And the reason that is because we're not eating for the sake of growth. Well, it's growth, but it's the wrong type of growth. And what ends up happening is, take a couple slogans. How about this one? Anyone know this one? Once you pop, you can't stop. Who's that? Pringles. But you just can't have one. Frito-Lays, right? Now, I once saw another one. I wish I wrote down the name. It wasn't a big company. It goes, just keep eating. Right? That's what it said. I was like, wow. It's like, better. But the idea is what our whole society is just about self-indulgence, in which case, what do you expect to get out of that? Okay, that's called physical pleasure. So people, we could already start living this right now. You want to live a life of absolute, real happiness, right? We're going to get something out of it. You're going to be able to focus on these concepts, understand what they are. Next time you eat a food, don't just pound it, but take a moment, think about it, think about what you're about to do, right? Go ahead, and that's in terms of food. It could be same thing in terms of an intimate relationship. Be aware of what's happening. There are many people that are involved in intimate relationships but aren't getting the most out of it. Why? Because they're not an expert in what it is. Because they're focusing on the wrong parts. And the idea is also that they get stuck into the concept of which we're going to see in just a moment. Okay, that is fifth class pleasure. Everybody get that clear? Number 4. Moving on down. Now, yeah.
Emotional?
Good. Emotional, mental, we're going to see might be different, although that would apply to all of them. We're going to see how it's its own category. Emotional, or as the way we categorize it, it's called love. And this is all coming from the chinuch. The chinuch says that you have 5 levels. There's love, and then there's physical, and then there's love, and I'll tell you what they are in a moment. And it all boils down to the number 1, whatever that is. Now, love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Now, the concept when we say the idea of the level after or level above, how do you know that level 4 is greater than level 5? You'd be willing to give up all of number 5 in order to have number 4. What does that mean? You'd be willing to give up number 5 for number 4. Let's give an example. Let's give an example of the idea of love. Does anybody here have any children by any chance? Yeah? Okay. May I ask you a question? Yes. You have children? What is your name? Rivka. Okay, that is a question or a statement? Okay, so we could call you something else for you, like whatever you want. It's your choice. Okay. Rivka, do you have more than one child?
Yes.
You have even 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Boys, girls?
All boys.
All boys. Okay. And you're still here. Unbelievable, right? What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Okay, so now, here comes the question. Imagine for a moment, you're sitting there, you got your boys, okay? And you get a knock on the door for dramatic effect. Now, you go and you open the door. And when you open the door, you find there's a wealthy man, seems to be a wealthy man standing there, and he says the following. He says, Mrs. Rivka, I see that you have more than one child. And I wasn't blessed with children. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I very badly want a child. I will give you, I would say $1 million, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. $1 billion for one of your children. However, you'll never see them again. Everything will be taken care of, but you'll never see them again. Are you in? I've never heard a mother hesitate, right? Right. I've always heard the father opens up and goes, all right, take 2. You know? It's like I was born, my mother's like, a treasure. My father's like, let's bury it. Right? It's like, okay, but the idea is what usually mothers are a little more loving. You know, your children are going to get a copy of this, you know. Right? Anyway, but the idea is like, I'm hoping, I'll speak for you, you would slam the door in his face. Yeah? Please say yes.
Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, good. Yeah? Are you from New York? Where are you from? Okay, now I get it. All right, so the idea is, nonetheless, that what we find is that hopefully even for $1 billion, my child, give up my child. Hopefully it says, of course I won't give up my child. To give all the money in the world, not giving up my child. And you get like a chutzpah, right? So what happened? You close the door. You turn around and you look at the kid. Kid's playing with blocks or something. You look back at the door. You look back at the kid. You walk over and start playing with his face. You're trying to figure out, like, what did I just give $1 billion up? Right? So now, some mothers, maybe they work, and they don't always get the time to spend time with their children. Did you work at all? Okay, so you say, you know what? This kid, I just gave $1 billion up. Let me spend some time with this kid. Let me see what's going on here. So you take off of work. You go to the park with the kid. 5 minutes later, I think I have some work to do. Right? What happened? Why is it that when we, even though we love our children, we sometimes can't spend 5 minutes with them? Yeah? I don't want to say spouse, right? Because perhaps they may be here with us. But the idea is what? Understand the idea of what's going on is that even though we love, sometimes we have a hard time like being able to actualize that what's going on over here. So number one, you got to be an expert. What's love? What is the definition of love? So only because of time, unless we have time. Okay, so does anyone want to share with me what they think is a definition of love? It's hard to do this, it really is, to pin it down. But let's at least try to get close to it. When does somebody love something? Don't give me Rav Dessler giving. Don't give me Ahava and Hav. Don't do that for me. Right? It's true that you will come to love when you give towards something, but I'm not looking for that. You see, my question is, why would you even give to the thing in the first place? Right? You give to things that you already love, and then it builds the love. But my question is, why do you love that thing in the first place? Yeah.
Because you want to be unified with it in some way.
Why do you want to be unified with that thing?
You like it.
Say again?